So welcome back to Networking and Working Your Resume. We are going to launch into Module 2, which is mapping your network. So we started with the what that we're asking, and now we're moving on to who we're asking it of. So this is just a wide general overview of where networking happens. So we have our professional networks, and this might be LinkedIn, Inclusive, Gain Power, Arena Careers, which we'll get into a bit more in a moment. This might be listservs. So you can think here of any alumni groups you're part of, a university program mailing list, any campaign listservs that might send out messages to a wide group of people. Slack groups also fall into this category as well. There is events, or there are events. Events are a really great place to meet people. And what's wonderful is that we now have the option of both in-person and virtual events where we get to mix and mingle with folks and interact with other people. And then lastly, that friend who knows everyone. We all have that friend. Maybe you are that friend. If so, props to you. But it might not necessarily be a person in the industry that you're looking for, but just a connector to that person. And just remember that we've all been through this. Most people in politics have been through the work of networking. So don't be afraid to reach out to strangers who might have valuable insights for you. And again, asking friends for ideas and connections. What's important here is sometimes our friends might not be the right person, but they also have networks, right? And then the people within those networks might be the best person to talk to. So it's often easiest to begin our search through the connections that are most direct and available to us. And on here on the right, you could use this exactly. I'm looking to learn more about blank. Do you know anyone who I could talk to about it? Could you introduce us? Great, and Arena Careers connections. You can connect with political professionals. You can search by relevant experience, location, role, and then you can directly send messages or request a meeting through LinkedIn as well. You can directly send messages or request a meeting through Arena Careers as well. What's great about Arena Careers is that all the folks are on Arena Careers are politically minded, social impact minded. So you know that you're going to be reaching out to people who are already thinking about many of the same issues and topics that you are as well. LinkedIn connections. LinkedIn is great because if, for example, you are interested in data analytics and you know that Civitech is doing really interesting stuff in this, you can search Civitech, see the connections there, but also see everyone who has worked there. And then you can find people that fit the description of the role that you're interested in and reach out that way. So you can search for relevant organizations, search employees by degrees of connections, job titles, or locations. And here on LinkedIn, you'll have to request to send a message or connect. So LinkedIn can be very cold. It can be a little hard, especially if you don't already have a connection. But good to have an understanding of how to use this tool as just one of the many places where you might network in your journey. So great, we'll pause here for another 4 to 5 minutes to allow you some space to write down the names of 2 to 3 people who you think can help you answer the questions you outlined earlier. So going back to defining that challenge. that you defined in Module 1, and thinking about people who can help you to answer those questions. If you don't have a specific name, you can think about a title or a role of someone who you think might be able to answer these questions for you. So for example, you can consider someone who has a title or role that you want, someone in an industry you want to explore, or just someone who keeps popping up in your life. So we'll take a couple minutes here to write down those names. So you have your names, and now it is time to reach out. So components of an intro message or email. We are first going to offer an introduction of ourselves, a quick intro, and we're going to tell them what we're looking to learn or ask them a question. One of my first questions as a person who is being approached is often like, am I really going to be helpful to this person? So you can show them upfront that how their experience is going to be relevant to that question as well, including that in your message and the why of why you're asking to meet with them. And then asking for a meeting, asking whether it's in person or Zoom to meet to actually have the informational interview. And then we always want to follow up. And here we will ask you to keep it short. One of these barriers is always the idea that we might be wasting someone's time. But if you send a clear message that is concise about who you are and why you want to talk, that person is going to be more inclined to say yes to actually meeting with you. So here's an example of an introduction email that you might use. Hi, Marcus. My name is Jules Mirne, and I was just the digital director for MJ Hagar's campaign for US Senate. I'm figuring, I'm figuring out my next steps post-election, and I'm interested in learning more about jobs with progressive digital consulting firms. Anna suggested we connect, and I'd love to hear more about your experience at LaCroix Digital Consulting. Do you have 20 to 30 minutes next week to talk? Many thanks, Jules. So it's short, it establishes upfront who they are, tells the person why they are a good fit for having this conversation with them, and then makes a specific ask. So as you do this, be persistent, know why you want to talk to someone. Don't just send out a thousand emails for the sake of it. Great, so now that we know who we are talking to, we are going to discuss informational interviews. So invite you to join us for the next brief module to explore best practices for preparing for, holding, and following up on informational interviews.